Ah, shucks, we've gotten to the point of what I would consider to be one of the more famous classic AVGN episodes, Top Gun on Nintendo. This is a game that I never even tried until recently, partially because I'm not a fan at all of first-person flight simulator type of games, and then honestly, I've never even seen the movie Top Gun until recently. Seriously, and I'm a person that loves 80s action flicks. I'm not sure what the hell I was thinking. I mean, I've seen bits and pieces of the movie growing up, but I thought it was just sort of lame and boring. I guess maybe I just saw nothing but the love scenes between Tom Cruise and the love interest. I really missed out. The movie is awesome in the schlockiest 80s kind of way. Maybe Rex Viper should cover Playing with the Boys sometime. Ugh. Alright, enough with the chit chat. What does AVGN, or still the angry Nintendo nerd, have to say about Top Gun on the NES, episode 10? Ah, sweet Jesus, take a look at that title card. Right away he cracks a line so sincerely that it makes me laugh. Top Gun on the NES sucks ass now, and it sucked ass back then. Classic. He goes over some of the gameplay, but the first thing that sticks out is he said that this game sucks because it's just boring and has no music. The game is just a blank, mindless void, and it reminds him of purgatory. He'd rather fly a cargo plane full of rubber dog shit out of Hong Kong than play this game. Then he brings up the ever-famous landing sequence part of the game. This is a mandatory sort of minigame that's done at the end of every level, and more or less ties in with the movie, with Tom Cruise always asking for permission to do a flyby. James said this part is impossible and rants about it for quite a while. The same landing sequence is talked about till this day by gamers as this all impossible feat that has never been figured out. He basically says the exact same thing about the refueling segment in Mission 2. And that's about it. He never gets past Mission 2. He goes on about the sequel, Top Gun, Second Mission, but maybe we'll come back to that when the movie sequel comes out later this year. As for an AVGN episode, I feel like this is the first one that really clicked. It feels more like what became the modern style episode that lasted for so many years. This is the first one of the originals that I actually enjoyed. So just how terrible is Top Gun in the NES? Let's check it out. Well, the game starts with the iconic Top Gun anthem, which unsurprisingly is played like 100 times throughout the movie. That's pretty cool and a welcome sight for a licensed NES game. Right away you can pick from 3 different types of missiles, and I can only assume that the ones with the lower number count deal more damage, so generally I pick either one of those. There are a number of issues with the game, but I'll start with the most obvious. It's quiet. Too quiet. There's literally no music in about 95% of the game. That sucks ass. Every now and then some enemy planes, boats, or other shit will show up and just blast you all to hell. It's so damn hard to dodge the enemy projectiles. You can either blast them down or dodge them, but sometimes it's just like impossible. The only consistent way to beat this game is to cheat. You can basically choose a corner of the screen and sit in it for most of the level, adjusting only if an enemy locks onto you from behind or if you need to refuel. I recommend using the NES Advantage joystick if you're going to try this strategy because your thumb will get so tired holding down the left on the D-pad for about 10 minutes at a time. So the advantage of using this strategy is to actually be able to beat the game, but the game itself, well, just look at this shit. This is what you'll be seeing for the next 30 minutes straight, with no enemies, no music, nothing. Like AVGN said, it's fucking purgatory. You know, I bet I could review the entire Top Gun movie itself before anything of note happens in this game. Let's try it. Top Gun, released in the early summer of 1986, is a slice of 80s Americana directed by Tony Scott, who also directed some notable action films such as Beverly Hills Cop 2, Days of Thunder, and Enemy of the State, along with a bunch of other mediocre action films until his unfortunate and tragic death in 2012. Top Gun follows the story of Maverick, a reckless naval aviator and popular gamer tag for over 2 million Xbox players, who is selected for training for a chance to become Top Gun, the highest honor of the Naval Air Force. What follows is one of the most famous 80s movie tropes. Maverick has a co-pilot called Goose, in which he has a wild bromance with. They feud with then Hollywood hunk Val Kilmer, who plays Iceman, your typical jock-like character. Maverick falls in love with a love interest, a lady trainer who's having the Top Gun candidates try out a new model aircraft. They make sweet 80s love in one of the most iconic scenes in movie history, which, funny enough, I saw for the first time in Always Sunny in Philadelphia. For no reason at all, we get the most gratuitous testosterone-driven volleyball montage in cinema history. It's 80s schlock in the most purest form. Well, then Goose dies, Maverick mopes around and finally gets his mojo back and saves Iceman at the end of the movie. While it's not like a great plot-driven movie or anything, it more than makes up in pure 80s action. The soundtrack is an absolute classic, but it's kind of weird just how much they play some of the songs throughout the movie. And you'll hear other such classics as the Top Gun anthem, Playing with the Boys, Danger Zone, Mighty Wings, and much more. If you're like me and somehow have never seen it, do yourself a favor and give it a watch. There's a sequel called Top Gun Maverick that is coming out later this year. Let's go back to the game. How is it looking? Oh boy. Well, let's skip all this shit and talk about the landing sequence. When it's time to land at the end of each level, two big numbers appear in the middle of your screen. It's always the same, 200 altitude and 288 speed. You need to match your altitude and speed somewhat with these numbers. You can be a bit off, about 30 or so, and still stick the landing just fine. All you need to do is get to those two numbers and stay relatively close to them until you land. And that's it. The screen will prompt you to adjust your direction a little bit here and there, but you can just tap left or right when prompted to. Honestly, out of the 20 or so landings I had to do during gameplay, I missed maybe 2 of them. It's not hard at all, but does require your full concentration. All the other missions are basically the same. You just fly in the corner if you want to survive, fight enemies if you want to die. Missions 2 through 4 have a refueling about halfway through the stage. For once and only once, there is music playing during this minigame. Why couldn't they just have music throughout the entire game? I don't know. The first time I tried the refueling, I really had no idea what the fuck to do. It's not obvious where the refueling pump needs to go on the radar screen. And if you fail here, you'll run out of fuel and die before the end of the level. The trick is that the refueling pump just needs to hit the center of the faint X on your plane. As soon as you hit the sweet spot by speeding up and adjusting the direction, it connects and refuels your plane. Once you figure it out one time, it takes all of maybe 10 seconds and it's impossible to fail afterwards. At the end of levels 2 through 4, there's a random boss, but they're all the same, and this is why I chose to get what I guess are the higher damage missiles. As long as you strafe up and down and spam A and B, they'll all go down in about 5 to 10 seconds. Afterwards, you'll just need to land your plane to end the mission. The thing that sucks the most is that each mission takes roughly 8 minutes to beat no matter what you do, and it's either the most frustrating 8 minutes of your life or the most boring depending on how you want to try to play it. I don't believe that increasing your speed really makes it go any faster either, but I haven't cared to time it. You only get 3 lives and no continues, so good luck if you don't cheat it. One thing that's really weird though is that if you die in the 4th mission, you get an end screen that says you've earned the title of Top Gun. I guess this game counts the 4th mission as a secret mission. If you beat the 4th level, you get the real end screen, which is just really shitty for how hard it is to get here. In my opinion, one of the stupidest things about this game is that it doesn't really seem to have anything to do with the movie Top Gun outside of a couple text screens and the Top Gun anthem. It feels like Konami just had a crappy flight simulator in the can and slapped a Top Gun logo on it and shat it out to stores. Would it have killed them to at least include a minigame with the MIDI of Playing with the Boys going on in the background? So how does the AVGN review of Top Gun compare to my experience? Well, I pretty much 100% agree with him on everything that doesn't have to do with the landing or refueling segments. The graphics are pretty decent and the game controls totally fine, but it's just boring as shit and not worth the playthrough. You had a movie like Top Gun that had so many big scenes, moments, and music, but you won't find even the faintest hint of them here. Avoid this game unless you're really a diehard for early flight simulators. I give Top Gun a 2 out of 5 stars.
Tower, this is Ghost Rider requesting a flyby.
Negative, Ghost Rider. The pattern is full.
No, ma'am. This is not a good idea.
Sorry, Goose, but it's time to buzz the tower.